All right. Today on the show, we have an awesome guest. This is someone we connected with recently through a mastermind. And we've just been so eager to have her on the show to dig into what she carries because I know it's for you. So, welcome to the show, Kara.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored to be here. And you guys are just, I love being around other couples who are doing amazing things. So it's such an honor to be here.
I feel like that's why we were really drawn to you guys at the beginning. We sat at a table together at this mastermind, but it's so cool seeing couples doing business together. And I love your tagline on Instagram that marriage is like, is it marriage is the ultimate mastermind? Is that the language?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, it's so good because we have always said like business is the best marriage counseling because I mean, it really forces you into growing together in ways that I feel like are stretching, right? Communication, roles, responsibilities, like all the things, right? That will help your marriage happen in business. Did you and Mike, were you always in business together or were you doing business separate when you like, tell us about the beginning. Did it start this way or did you grow into it?
Yeah. So we got married pretty young. I was 19 and he was 20. So we were really young, started having babies. He was a plumber and I worked at a doctor's office. So no, not entrepreneurs at all. But our main focus, we were big dreamers though. So our main focus was our kids and our family. We wanted to make sure to always keep that a priority. But I was pregnant with our last kid, our daughter, and we had two little boys. They were toddlers. And then I was pregnant and he was working out of town for like the whole pregnancy. So he was gone. He would come home on the weekends, throw his laundry in the wash, and then head back out on Sunday. And we just kind of looked at each other because in my mind, I thought that if you were an entrepreneur, you didn't have a family life. That's just, I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. It's kind of what I saw on TV. And so I didn't ever want that. But at that point, we weren't seeing each other. So we were like, well, if we're going to not see each other anyways and not have, be separated, we should just do this for ourselves. And so we just went for it and we opened our first business, which was a plumbing and HVAC company. And so that was kind of the start of why we did, because we were already living this life. And then I kept come to find out you actually can have a family and a business, right? But I didn't know that. And I think that that's such a great lesson for people is we don't know what we don't know until we start experiencing it and taking those risks.
That's amazing. And go ahead and tell our audience because I love what you guys do and I'm getting more educated in different spaces that I feel like are such an expert in. But what do you guys do now? So you started with this plumbing business and then kind of what are the different things you did to where you're at today?
Yeah, I love that question. So we started this business. It was amazing. Did really well, but we quickly realized, and I think if anybody here owns their own business, we quickly realized it had just became like this job that we bought for ourselves, right? So while it gave us more freedom, it also kind of tied us down. And we hired a coach, which every entrepreneur needs to hire a coach. And he started asking us questions. One of those questions was, um, if your business isn't providing the lifestyle that you want, then you own a job. That's where we came to that. And so we started thinking about our future and thinking about retirement and what that would look like. And do we want to be in our business all the time, or do we need to bring on more team players? So we started bringing on more into our business. But the biggest move that we did is we started investing. We were making pretty good money and we didn't really know where to start. So I had an uncle who was investing in real estate who did pretty well. And so we figured if we bought two single family homes for the next 10 years, every year, then by the time we were 60, we could retire off of that cash flow. They'd be paid off. So that's what we did. We set out to just buy two single family homes a year. In the first year, we bought our first two. And then the second year, we stumbled upon a mobile home park that had 70 spaces. And so it just more than doubled, right? So it just kind of flung us into that. And we just kept buying while we were building our business. We just kept using the cash flow that we were making that the business was spinning off and investing it in real estate. So we invested in single family, commercial, mobile home parks, and just really started building that on the side passively. And I think that that's something that we really learned is that, it's great to make money, but then to make your money start working for you. And I think real estate is just such a great way to do that.
That's amazing. I feel like I have been more intimidated by learning more about like investing in different ways. Like this is newer to Stephen and I, and we feel like we're supposed to like dive more into that. But I would love for you to talk about your journey with just like having an abundant mindset, specifically like both in your marriage, but then just as a woman as well. I think that sometimes we think about like money differently and have different like needs than men do, and like wanting security and wanting it for different reasons. So I would just love to hear about like your journey or just some like number one takeaways that you have that have shaped your amazing abundant mindset.
Yeah, I think, it's really just it came down to me really examining, and actually Mike's the one who taught me, my husband, about abundance. Neither of us came from any kind of money or entrepreneurship, but he had more of an abundant mindset where mine was more I was scared. I had, I just didn't know like what it looked like to be abundant and to walk in that. So really it was examining what those beliefs were to begin with and finding out where they came from. Like who told me this? So many times I think there's not a lot of financial education out there to begin with. Like, did you guys learn anything in school about investing or, besides like, here's how you balance your checkbook, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
No.
much.
You don't learn about like tax planning. We're just not taught any of those things. And I think especially, I think for men too, but I think for women, I think it just can be really intimidating to, you feel intimidated. People are using big words and, you just feel like you're intimidated to ask questions. And so I think that that's like the first thing is realizing that we weren't taught. And that's probably part of the problem is that we weren't taught that. So we have to actually go out and self educate ourselves around finances and what that looks like.
Mm.
What's the balance? I mean, like, I think what we've done historically is invest in what we know, right? So,
Mhm.
what we know is Amazon, we know Amazon really well, and we know our own business really well. So, we typically would take money and pour it back in the business. But you guys, I feel like, did a shift where, yes, you were putting money back in your business, probably by hiring team to free up on the time, but then letting some of that overflow
Mhm.
kind of go out of the business, right? Go out into real estate, go out into another industry, diversification, right? Because, I mean, yeah, you could still be running the plumbing business to this day. However, at a certain point, like it was that job. Did you find like, was it stretching to release control in that process? Because not only releasing control of the business a little bit by raising up team members, but also going into real estate was probably like, I mean, a fairly new venture for you guys at the time. Walk us through that because like I feel like a lot of our students, a lot of our community, they are kind of taking these steps into new
Mhm.
territory, whether it's Amazon, whether it's investing in something else, like, and there's that like faith aspect of like, you gotta step knowing not knowing all the details.
Mhm.
So bring us back to that moment. Like what helped you guys in that moment of like releasing that control and taking those steps?
Well, I think we just like, we looked at in the future and thought, do we want to be doing this for the rest of our lives? Right? Is this what we want to be doing for the rest of our lives? Or should we be preparing? And I do think there's something to be said. I think the best investment you can make is, if people ask, where should I start? First, start with yourself, investing in yourself and your own education. And then in your business, I do think reinvesting in our businesses is so vital and I think that that is always the first step. But then the second step is, have you guys ever read the book Richest Man in Babylon?
Yeah, I listened to it, but it's a quick one. It's a quick listen.
It is. It is. It's one of my very favorite books. Mike and I both. We usually listen to it once a year. But one of the things he says in there is pay yourself first. That's one of the rules is pay yourself first. And I look at investing like that. We think we pay ourselves because we are, paying for our electricity or we're paying for clothes or food, but that's not really paying ourselves. So I look at it like there's a percentage of your money that you need to go and send out to work for you, right? So that's only can be used for things that are going to bring a return. And so if you can just even start, with 3%, 5%, working yourself up to that 10% and just start an account. Like if you're in the beginning stages and you don't know, I think that's the first step to do is open an account start putting 10% in there or 5%, whatever you feel comfortable, and watch it start growing. And then when opportunities come, you have some seed money, right, to be able to start investing in that. And I think that's one thing we did and we've always done is we just always make that a priority because we know that that's where the return comes. And that's how you really multiply that money.
Mm.
I love that. It's such a practical strategy. It's just like
Yeah.
start with a small percentage, separate account, maybe even a separate bank, so you don't even see it, right?
Hmm.
And that was one of my big takeaways. I read everyone talks about Profit First, that book, like Profit First. I read that book and I was like, this sounds awesome, but it was also very complicated. But the one thing I did do was that, like, I was like, I set up a new account and it was just like, all right, every time, we hit a new month, I'm gonna take
Mhm.
this percent and do that, right? It took a little bit to figure out what that percent was, but it's so fun to see that grow because I
Mhm.
think when you're growing a business, you kind of just like everything feels like your money, right? It's like,
Mm.
oh, this is our money. It's the business and it's us. But in reality, you got to keep some money in the business, but you got to have some money that is deployed. And I love how you
Mhm.
kind of said it that way. Like you're signing, this is for you, but it's also like to send out to do work for you,
Mhm.
because business is very active to me, right? You're in the business, you're putting your time in, and you can create leverage with team and systems and all those things. But some of these investments, I mean, you guys really specialize in that now, is like passive investments for other people. Talk about that because as you were learning, I'm sure single family, mobile home, commercial, you guys have done it all. What have been some of your favorite investments over the years when it comes to maybe that time freedom aspect of things?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, we were investing passively in real estate because we had our business and then we were just investing passively. And I think the thing that surprised me the most was that mobile home park that we bought because, I think sometimes we're looking for shiny objects, really sexy businesses, sexy investments. And I remember Mike driving me through that mobile home park. And, this isn't like tiny homes, cute mobile home parks, right? And I'm like, "We're gonna actually pay money for this?" Like, I just was like, "Wow. I don't know if this is a good move." It was scary. It felt scary to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
But the thing is that it's really good cash flow. So that's, looking at the market and knowing I think that real estate always will do good because we need housing, right? And I know people are scared right now because of what's happening in the economy. It seems really scary, but we have to remember where I just was on a call with Kathy Fecky the other day, and she was talking about we have to remember where these reporters are coming from. Most of these people who are reporting this, they're not in real estate, right? They're just reporting these scare tactics. And really, we have a housing shortage. And so, certain areas are going to get hit, but I don't think we're going to really see dips in the housing market. I don't think this is like 2008. So finding out where the need is, like right now, there are certain cities that need homes for rentals, right? So single family, I'm asset agnostic, so I like all the assets. Um, but I think, finding out what your why is, finding out why you're investing, and then the investment philosophy. Are you doing it for cash flow? Are you doing it for tax purposes? Do you need a tax break, right? Or is it a long game and it's just going to pay out later on in life? And I think that's one thing that we've done really well. And the thing I love about real estate is that it appreciates over time, right? So some people go in and they think, well, I'm going to flip this in 5 years or, be out in 5 years. But I like to think like when I'm 60, like I just rent, like it's paying me cash flow every month, but I'm not really paying attention to it because it's for the future.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's huge.
You said, when Mike drove you, your husband Mike, into that first mobile home park, and you were like, you want to buy this, and it felt risky and scary. I know that you often talk about like feeling good in the uncomfortable, or even like in the funk, like changing your state of energy. Like, talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you do, like practically? How are you like okay with feeling good in the uncomfortable? I think of my own life. Like, I used to be very resistant of change or getting uncomfortable. And now I look at it as, wow, I'm growing. Like, it shouldn't be always easy every single minute, because that's an opportunity to grow. So I would love your perspective on that.
Yeah. We just actually had a call with a couple this morning and they were saying life just feels heavy right now. They're growing. They just started a new business and they're like, it feels really heavy. Well, like, when are we going to get some wins? And I'm like, man, welcome to the club. Like that's when most people quit and most people turn around. And I think it really takes leaning into that uncomfortable and leaning into the times where you are growing. And you have to kind of go through a couple of those cycles to see that, oh, this actually is the next step. So if you're in one of those first cycles of like, I've never been this uncomfortable, know that you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing is being around other people, I think that's huge, is having community and other people who can tell you you're not alone. Like, this is a normal feeling to feel uncomfortable. And it's usually a sign that you're on the right path too. Um, so I think that's huge, is just having community around you, even if it's your spouse or other friends or maybe a mastermind that you're a part of, is having those other people that can encourage you in that. And then just rewinding to that story of us driving through there, I had to remember it wasn't about my emotions of how I was feeling, because the numbers made sense, you know. And I think with business, we can get into our emotions and what that feels like, or it feels scary, but it's the numbers game. And if we can just look at the numbers, and the numbers tell, they don't lie, right? So if we can follow the numbers, then it's easier to step out of that emotional piece of it. I think I'm a little more of a risk taker because I think I like the reward piece of it. I also like security as well. And the older I get, I find myself being more secure. Like, I like that security. But I think, looking at your life and thinking it's so hard to leave from the good, right? So thinking of uncomfortable, when you're good, why are you going to try to grow? Why are you going to try to go to that next level? Because it's good. But that's like where the most massive change happens, is when we go from good to great. So being willing to take that risk.
Hmm.
That's huge. I feel like, one thing I'm curious about is, as you guys have grown in this real estate journey, because I think I read in the bio that you, ended up selling, was it the plumbing business? You guys exited that business. So at some point, I mean, it sounds like you caught the bug pretty fast with real estate. You went from 2 to 70 units or something like that within a couple of years. Caught the bug on there, sold the business. Now you're scaling the real estate thing. Now you guys are, I think it's like thousands of units, right? And like, how do you protect your time and your connection in that? Because, you guys, you got a family, you got each other. It sounds like a lot when I hear like 1,700 units. It
Hmm.
sounds like, oh my gosh, that sounds like
So many
crazy.
businesses, so many moving
Like, I just
pieces.
think
Yeah.
we have like an Airbnb property, and it's like, we have a manager for the Airbnb property, but every once in a while there is something that's like, hey, they see, it's like, it's kind of this thing, you like, it's working, but also you kind of worry about it. I'm like 1,700 of those. I know you're not doing Airbnbs like that, but like, yeah, how do you protect your boundaries and your time in managing a lot and scaling like that?
We've always said this, like, 1 to 3 employees or rental properties is kind of like, you feel that like you're looking over your shoulder. But I feel like the more you have, the more of a team you can build to support you in that. And, I've worked in every aspect of our business. I actually don't even work in our real estate business whatsoever now. About 4 years ago, I kind of just stepped away. I'm involved at a high level, but I think, knowing what you're good at. So for years, I did a lot of things I wasn't probably the best at, but that's what we do as business owners, is we step in where it needs. And I think it's good because we get to learn all the different aspects of it. And so we're able to manage the people that are under us. But I think empowering other people, you talked about letting go of control. That's a big piece of it, is letting go of control of, maybe you could do it a little better than somebody else, but what is that time freedom giving you? And making sure you're just doing the things that you're really good at. And also, like, passively, when you're investing passively, there's such a difference, because now we're kind of not really passively investing. We were passively investing. And then we sold our business, and really we went into full-time real estate because we were bored, to be honest. We had our personal portfolio, but we're like, well, we know how to do this. And I think we're meant to create. So, we had like a year or two where we were just kind of like, what are we going to do with our time? And that's why we went full time into real estate, as, equity, and bringing on investors and things like that. But that's a business. So I think that's one thing to be cautious of, is if you're getting into real estate, do you want it to be passive? Because it can also just turn into a business, which is what we have now. It's a business. We run it like a business, and it's not really a passive investment. We do have passive investments with other operators and things, but our business now, it's a business.
Can you break that down for people who maybe like, they've heard everyone's heard of investing in real estate,
Hmm.
but active versus passive? Because I feel like even just talking to you guys
Hmm.
over lunch, it was like, oh, like we could do that. Like there's like the passive side, which syndicates and all the things you guys are doing. Can you break that down? Because I think maybe people have this perceived idea of real estate, like, oh, I got
Yeah.
to go buy a place and live in it and fix it up, or like
Mhm.
there's so many ways to do real estate. So can you break that down just a little bit for
Mhm.
people that are just they're
Yeah.
interested, but they're like passive,
Some
active? What does this mean?
financial education.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, passively, so if I invest in something passively, I'm not worrying about it. I have a property manager that's in place, and they're handling it. So that's kind of how it was when we had our own. We still have our own personal portfolio, but it is kind of still in the back of my mind, and I am ultimately in charge of those properties. I'm ultimately responsible. So if something happens with my property manager, I'm still in charge of that. So I would say that is even just still a little bit active. But there are ways for you to invest with other operators. And you definitely want to research and do some due diligence if you're going to invest with somebody. Make sure that they have a good track record. Make sure that, they know what they're doing. They have experience. They've kind of went through cycles too, because there's always these cycles in the economy. So if they've went through the last couple of cycles and they've had some low times and they've had some good times, that's somebody I would want to invest with. But that is more of a passive investment for me is when I'm investing with somebody else and they're professionals at it. I don't need to know. I need to understand what the deal looks like. I need to understand what I'm investing in, like you said in the beginning of this recording, to make sure that you invest in what you understand. And I think that's really important. If it's too complicated, it's probably I would maybe avoid it if they got all these little like waterfalls and things. Um, but if it's simple and you understand it and your accountant understands it, and you trust the operator, I think that's like the truly passive way to invest in real estate.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, that opened our eyes up a lot because I'd heard of syndicates and funds and things like that, but even just talking to you guys, it was like, wow, this is something
Mhm.
that we could totally be doing. Yes, we acquire other real estate that's like you said, it's passive, but it's still kind of active. The air conditioning goes out, we still get a call. But this would be totally passive where, we're investing and not worrying about it. It's just like, hey, that's awesome. Someone else is running it. Now you do give up a little bit of you know, the upside potential in that, right? Like if it's kind of like we talk about this with Amazon too. It's like there's DIY, there's done with you, and then there's done for you, right?
Mhm.
The totally passive way is done for you. Then there's kind of done with you. And then there's DIY, which is like you're in there, you're building the house, but it's like how much do you value your time? And
Mhm.
so knowing your goals in the process, like you mentioned, was like in that initial season, you guys are running a business. So you needed
Mhm.
passive, right? Now you gone more active because you got the time and you guys wanted to lean into that. But I think there's no prescription for listeners. If you're interested in something like this, whether it's building an Amazon business, whether it's building a real estate business, like there's no prescription. It's about what are your values in this season and uh how much time do you want to put in this thing? We have friends that do that. They flip houses or they move into a duplex and live in one. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's one model, and for them, they love putting their time in there. But for us, where we're like, we love putting our time in our business, the
Mhm.
totally passive way sounds a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many you get all the benefits too if you're investing with somebody else. As long as the deal is structured correctly, you're going to get the tax through, your pass through tax benefits, you're going to get all the benefits of it. And if it does sell, you're also going to make, that profits depending on how it's set up and how the deal is structured, but you're going to get the upside of that as well too. And you're not going to be getting phone calls. You're just going to be getting checks in the mail.
Yeah.
Way better.
I love hearing like your confidence in this because I remember, like, again, this is newer to us learning about like it just, I didn't know, like, literally. I mean, maybe there were people around me in my life growing up that were doing this. I just wasn't aware of it. I think it's kind of like our family and friends, it's more like the Dave Ramsey model and like that's it. And it's so when your eyes are open, it's just like you can't look back. And I love hearing your confidence about these different methods because it's like, no, like people do this and there is success and there is like, yes, all business and different things is risk, but it's about like taking that calculated risk. And so I love that you're educating women and educating like you and Mike together, educating couples, and obviously you guys are so passionate about this. So it's really cool. I would love to know, like, in the stage of life that you and your kids are older, and like I know that you guys like just moved to a new city and everything, like how do you guys like, because you have built so much wealth and you have like a lot of business experience, like looking forward into the next like 5, 10 years, like what are some of your guys's like goals? Or I know like legacy is probably a huge piece of yours. Like what are some things that you guys are constantly like thinking about as far as like leaving a legacy? Like I love hearing what people are doing in their life to like make that happen. And like it can happen, you can leave a thriving legacy.
Yeah, we're in an interesting stage of our lives. You just mentioned that our kids are older. Our baby just graduated high school last year, and so they're all kind of spreading their wings and doing their thing. I think for the next 10 years, it's interesting because we have built all of this, but we've been very, very cautious with our time. So while we were building, businesses and building wealth, we made sure that our kids have always been number one. They've been our priority. So actually, Mike and I have been talking about this a lot. Like we have noticed that we'll say no quick because we've just been in that season of no, like protecting our time, but now we don't have to do that. So it's like we're trying to step into this new version of who we are because we don't have to say no because we don't have to protect that time as much. So I'm thinking there's probably going to be a lot more growth business wise for us just because of that time freedom. And then as far as like legacy and our kids, um, we we just really have like focused on making sure that we can pour into them and I think they'll probably all own their own businesses. Both of our sons kind of have their own things going on. Although my husband has talked our middle son into working for us for a little bit, which is great because he's getting to learn so much through that process. But I think, setting up, we'd love to have a family office at some point where the kids help us make those investment decisions. And then the requirement would be that they have to come to these meetings. They have to, do the due diligence for these deals and things like that. But pouring into what they want, for this next couple of years too. I think that's a big mission for Mike and I both is making sure that we're supporting them in the endeavors that they're wanting to go into, whether that's investing into their businesses or maybe it's just mentoring, whatever that looks like for them.
That's so cool. I think it's one thing to, like Steve and I have been talking a lot about this. It's one thing to leave like an inheritance and to leave wealth for your kids, but it's another thing to leave that, but also educate them on that so that they don't go and like squander it or, spend it on something that is silly. And of course, like kids might make those decisions, but I would love to know, like, as you and Mike grew your wealth, like, what are some of like the money mindset lessons that you guys are really proud that your kids have like they've gotten the concepts that you've taught them? I would love to know what some of those are.
Yeah, some of them have just been coming to light. One thing that I don't know if it's good or bad, we really infused time freedom. We actually never let them get jobs when they were in high school. They could work for us. But because we had worked so hard for our own time freedom, we didn't want them working at like Starbucks and we couldn't take our vacation because they couldn't get time off from Starbucks. And so I think that's one thing that we've really instilled in them is just time freedom. And you can see how they make their decisions today and the businesses that they have or the way that they spend their time. It's all very focused on their time and their time freedom. So that could also backfire, if they could hold back a lot because, when you and we all know, right, you got to put in the work, you got to put in a lot of time to build something. So, but also at the same time, I think the thing I'm proud of is they know the lifestyle that they want, and it's not about money, it's about the lifestyle that they want. So they're not chasing a dollar, they're chasing the lifestyle that they want to live. They're chasing, what that looks like, the time freedom piece of it. And I think that's what I'm most proud of is that they know that that's the most valuable thing is their time and not the actual money. Money is just a tool that they use for the purpose of what money is supposed to be used for, right? To excel in that.
Wow,
Mm.
that's so cool. I've never heard a parent say like we didn't let our kids get jobs in high school because I like my mindset is like, okay, tell me more. So like what would that look like from a parent teaching them, the importance of uh money and time and all of that. But like what did you guys do in place of like having them go and get a job?
So they could work for us. We didn't make them work for us, but they had the option to if they wanted to earn some extra money. They could work for us, and they all actually did work for us. And then they're all really hard workers too. So that was another thing that was, you know, while we were going through the process, we're like, oh, are we screwing? We're just trying this out. We'd never heard of it either. just trying it out. Like, are they going to be lazy? But they're all really hard workers. They know how to put their heads down and do the work. But I think, just even at home, they know how to hard work, how to have hard work, but they also understand the purpose of what money is for. And then pouring, when our oldest first graduated, he didn't want to, none of our kids went to college, or have yet, but he wanted to come work in our business, and he was a professional wake surfer. And we said, and he was number 5 in the world. So had this like period of time where he could really kill it, right? So we're like, why don't you go all in on this, build your brand, just offer some brand deals. He has like a board that he gets royalties off of, like a partnership. And then he has courses and things like that. Like, go all in on this. You could always come work for our real estate company. You could always come and learn this. But it's been so cool to see him excel in that and watch him grow and learn and seek wisdom. And I think that's the hardest part of being a parent, is when they leave, backing off a little, because it's really, you've been like kind of guiding them. But then when they graduate and they step into their own person, especially business, you want to be like, oh man, I know all the mistakes because we've made them. But you have to be cautious because they have to ask for it. But it's been cool to see them find their own mentors besides us as well.
That's so cool.
I'm
I love this idea.
I know I'm being inspired.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool to what a fun mindset. It's not that, oh, you can't make money. It's just like teaching them the way we make money as a family is different than probably what you're going to see out there as the standard, like
Mhm.
go get a job, work 9 to 5, like
Mhm.
there's other ways to create value in the marketplace. And I think that's such a powerful concept to teach. And just the no job thing is a great way to do it. And,
Mhm.
and so I could definitely see that being something we do.
Yeah.
I love it.
Kara, I love it. You're inspiring me to be more comfortable with saying no. As I'm hearing you talk about just where you're at, you're like, wow, we have more freedom, and you just like really protected your family's time together. And I think I do overall a pretty good job of it. But even the last couple weeks, Stephen and I have had conversations, and I'm feeling pulled in different areas. And I think I'm saying yes because I'm afraid to miss out on something, or I don't know. And it just doesn't feel like my best yes anymore, even though it initially did. And so I really appreciate you just coming on and giving me like freedom to say no to like what's really important. So thank you for that. It means a lot. And yeah, I have loved our conversation just about we've gotten so many different directions, but if our listeners want to hear more from you, want to stay connected, where are some places they can do that?
Probably the easiest one is my Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. It's Kara_Ayala. And just DM me. I love talking to people in my DMs, and that's probably the easiest place to just connect with me.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kara, for being on the show. And thank you, listeners, for listening. If there's some gold nugget in here, definitely take action on it. We're big into taking action. So if there's something you're being drawn towards, maybe it's connecting with Kara, maybe it's seeing what they're up to at their marriage mastermind, or seeing what they're up to at the real estate, or even her financial education for women. Dig into that, because there could be something there for you. And share this with a friend who needs it. So thank you, Kara, for being on the
Mhm.
show. This is awesome. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much. It's been so fun.